A lonely truck driver travels halfway around the world to Pattaya, Thailand, in a quest for some sort of romantic connection. In a town notorious for using love, alcohol, and bright neon signs to dupe gullible men out of their money, he's expecting to walk away light in the wallet. But when he discovers the real thing they want, it's beyond imagination. The full text of the AI Above Pattaya Soi 6 is available on the Paul Beauheart Substack. Link is in the description below. The AI Above Pattaya Soi 6 by Paul Beauheart. I first heard about Soi 6 in Pattaya when I was out on the road. It was the middle of an unusually chilly April in Kentucky, and I was dreaming of somewhere warm. I was hauling engines from a factory in Louisville to the Toyota assembly pad just outside of Tulsa. I kept my phone constantly charging in a cradle above my instrument panel, and YouTube was always on. I liked to see what the algorithm would pull up next. Sometimes the ads were a bit aggressive, but you could just click those off after a few seconds. This probably wasn't the safest thing in the world for a driver, but I've been long-haul trucking for over 20 years, and I still have a clean record. My wife left me years ago, and I only get to see my kids once in a blue moon since I'm on the road most of the year. I really hadn't been romantic with anybody in a long time. Couldn't even afford the hookers in Reno anymore, since everything's gotten so expensive with inflation and all. In other words, I'm one lonely SOB. So, I decided to broaden my horizons. I got my first passport when I had some downtime at my apartment outside Columbus. I always thought Latina women were real pretty. I see a lot of them when I have to make runs through West Texas. Might as well head to the source. I watched some videos from self-described passport bros in Colombia on how to pick up the ladies. It seemed like as long as you had some money, you could pull some tail, even if you had a bit of a gut and a receding hairline like myself. But then there was all these other videos about Americans getting drugged, robbed, and sometimes murdered down in Medellin. So I decided to look elsewhere. I knew a few guys with wives from Eastern Europe, but the videos coming out of that part of the world were sparse. It was mostly just dudes complaining that all the chicks had fled the region due to war. I looked into the Caribbean. A lot of my black trucker buddies went to the Dominican Republic when they had some money saved up. But the girls just didn't seem to be my type. That's when the video, Bike Ride, Soi 6 Pattaya, popped up while I was heading down that lonely highway outside of Louisville. Outside the windshield, it was drab and bleak. The trees hadn't even started getting their leaves yet from the harsh winter. But my phone blew up in bright neon and beautiful Asian girls in a tropical paradise. It was some British guy with a GoPro commenting on every bar he passed, of which there were many. "Oi, mate, here's another group of stunners here," he yelled as he passed a bar named Sugar Pops. "And over here is the barracks, where you've got these beautiful lasses dressed in uniform." The girls were all young and very cute in their hot pink faux military wear. It was nothing at all like the blown-out skeezers you would see at the cat houses in Nevada that were all pushing 40. I never really thought of myself as a guy who was into Asian chicks. I guess I just never thought about it. I was a big bubba from Ohio, so I figured they would be scared of an oaf like me. But looking at the video, there were all sorts of big boys parked on bar stools with girls putting their hands all over them. I pulled over at a Love's truck stop to investigate further. There were hundreds of videos about Pattaya. Where to get a hotel, how to get there from the airport in Bangkok, and, most importantly for me, how to meet the ladies. According to most of the travelers, it was more of a challenge not to get laid in Pattaya. Sure, they had a few caveats about the scams running there, but it seemed like dude heaven. There's also something called the 3-day rule, which meant you weren't supposed to hang out with one of the girls from the bar for more than 3 days, or you'd be supporting her and her family the rest of your life. I already had to give my lousy ex alimony, so I made a mental note about that. I was completely wrapped up in the YouTube videos when a waitress tapped on the counter and asked, "Hey, honey, are you done yet or what?" I looked her over. She was typical of the American woman. Morbidly obese, a discolored foot from diabetes, and an entitled feeling of superiority. I paid the bill for my chili and booked the flight and hotel to Thailand out in my rig. The taxi dropped me off at my hotel in Pattaya after a 2-hour ride from the airport in Bangkok. I'd never been out of the United States before, and everything was like an assault on the senses. The bright lights of the night markets, the friendly smiles, the smell of rotting jungle. Even the taxi driver was really chatty, asking me about driving a truck in the USA. When he pulled my luggage out of the trunk, he gave my big belly a rub. It was a bit strange for someone to get in my personal space like that, but I started giggling like the Pillsbury Doughboy as a gag. I checked into my cheap hotel room that smelled like stale cigarettes, toilet cleaner, and possibly a dead rat. Not wanting to linger in the stench, I threw on a tank top, shorts, and rubber sandals so I could walk around. I was so bombed out from the flight, I was a bit shocked that it was early evening already. Beach Road is the big route that runs right along the Gulf of Thailand in Pattaya and is home to a hodgepodge of bars and restaurants. It was packed with tourists from all over the place. Asian, Indian, Russian, European, African, you name it, they were here. It was like the time I was contracted to drive a FEMA food shipment into Manhattan during COVID. I was definitely the outsider. I kind of liked it that way. I felt like Indiana Jones on a sex adventure. The Temple of Poon, perhaps. The sidewalk was crowded with vendors selling all sorts of food I didn't recognize. I grabbed some meat on a stick, which was delicious, and a spiky fruit that smelled like rotting garbage, but turned out to be good. I had no idea how much cash I was spending since I was using the Thai funny money instead of dollars. Did my best to roll with it. I could feel the bass emanating from a side street. The undulating rhythm hit me in the chest like a gust of air from a passing 18-wheeler. There was a sign with an old ship's helm and a big 6 in the middle. I peeked down the street and a wave of neon and half-naked girls engulfed me like I just washed up on the shores of a modern Shangri-La. I walked down the street slowly with my head on a swivel. I was trying to peek into all the little bars and to see if there was a bar stool with my name on it. The names of the bars were all hilarious. Lovely Dollies, Top Gun Sex Bar, The Cheap Punter. The condition of the street was chaotic, with garbage everywhere. There were girls lining up on each side, grabbing everyone by the genitals to coax them into their respective bars. It was trashy, but the neon signage was all clean and sleek. Sort of like if the movie Blade Runner was reimagined as a soft porn. It was a bit early for the drunks to be getting too rowdy, but the guys wandering the street seemed pretty dazed. The sights and sounds of the bar lights and the tight bodies of the ladies were further intoxicating. "Hey, where you go?" a girl in a miniskirt and half of a nurse's outfit asked. She stopped in front of me with her arms crossed like a petulant child. "You like a big teddy. Buy me drink." All 100 pounds of her started pushing on me into a club called Hospital Bang Zone. The girl, who I learned was named Alec, sat with me for what seemed like hours. I sucked down a bunch of Leo beers and watched the other tourists walk past in the neon glow. Lek would run around and bring me a beer, get a whiskey and coke for herself. For such a small girl, she could sure drink. She also kept running out front to steal one of the other girls' vapes and have a quick puff. I learned that she was only 22 years old. So not only was I more than twice her size, I was also twice her age. Hopefully I wouldn't show up on one of those To Catch a Predator YouTube shows. I learned that she was from the northern part of Thailand, which she explained was quite rural and poor. When she asked where I was from, I reflexively mumbled, Ohio, outside Columbus. She gave me a confused look. I realized she probably wouldn't know the individual states of America unless it was like California or something. I corrected myself and just said I was from the United States. She asked if I was friends with Tom Cruise. I said I was unfortunately not, but he's probably a cool guy. I can put away a lot of beers if I'm on my off time, and I was starting to get concerned about my bar tab. I took a look at the cost of my 8 beers plus Lex drinks, and it was 2,000 Thai baht. I pulled out my phone and figured out that was only like $60. Man, that's nothing, I thought. I put the tab down and saw Lek blinking at me. You want to go somewhere? She asked. I could feel myself get a little excited, but she was just too young and too little. You're real cute and all, but, how about a tip instead? I gave her one of the 1,000 baht notes out of my wallet. She rewarded my simping with a big kiss on the cheek. Just then a white guy with scraggly hair came wandering into the bar and plopped down right next to me. He looked like Keith Richards, but more crazy. Hey friend, hey big man, he said. Being a large gentleman definitely has its downsides. For some reason, every drunk moron seems to want to be overly familiar to coax me into a fight. I can't explain the phenomenon, but this has been happening since high school. I, of course, always play it cool. Hey yourself, I muttered as I slowly turned my head to look at him. What are you looking for in Pattaya? Girls, booze, drugs? He asked. Girls and booze is good. They got plenty right here, I replied, waving my hand over the interior of the bar. Want to try something else? He whispered. I think I'm okay. If you're talking about sex, you're not my type, I said. Man, I ain't talking about that. I'm talking about something wild. Gotta head over to Tech Noir, the man said. The large woman who supervised the working girls, who was informed was called the Mama-san, came marching over in a huff. You get out of here, Jeffrey. She pushed past me and dumped the man off his bar stool with one big push. He fell with a thud on the concrete floor and scampered off like a beaten dog. The Mama-san smiled at me and said, I'm so sorry, sir. Let me get you one more beer. Free this time. I nodded my approval. Let came over to me with a frown on her face. Did that man talk tech noir? She asked. Yeah, what the heck is that? I asked. You a nice teddy bear. I don't want you to go tech noir, Lex said. You say so, I replied. My eyes glazed over as I sipped my free beer. I woke up in my stinky hotel with a bit of a headache. I sucked down both of the tiny complimentary water bottles in the hopes that it was just a minor case of dehydration instead of a full-blown hangover. I grabbed a shower in the tub that didn't have a shower curtain. Water sprayed all over my big belly and ran onto the floor. Good thing the joint had a drain in it, like the kill floor at a slaughterhouse. I walked past the hotel lobby where a young girl was thumbing through TikTok on her phone. I greeted her good morning, but she just gave me that Gen Z stare. I headed out into the concrete and sandy wilderness. The heat in the late morning was pretty vicious. The creeping specter of swamp ass began to spread on my behind, and my pits were already starting to reek. I wandered back onto Soi 6 expecting the same lively scene as the previous evening. However, it was totally deserted at midday except for the odd beer truck restocking the bars. I strolled down the empty street feeling like I was in the midst of a zombie movie set in paradise. I walked past Hospital Bang Zone 100 meters into the Soi, where I was the night before, and saw the rusty metal shutters that sealed off the place from the street. It looked a lot more welcoming when there was 10 cute Thai girls lined up outside. I kept walking in the hopes I would find a breakfast spot, or at least a 7-Eleven. Another 100 meters down the Soi, I saw a sign that said Tech Noir, with what seemed like a circuit board behind the massive lettering. It probably looked pretty cool at night when it was emanating neon. There were two older ladies out front smoking cigarettes. I took a look inside the door and there was a bunch of nerdy looking Thai guys running around with laptops. "What is this place?" I asked the ladies camped out front. "Oh, closed right now. You come back tonight," the older woman said with a smile. All her teeth were black. After grabbing some more of the meat on a stick, I headed back down to Beach Road. The sun was setting in blood red, giving the working ladies a strange halo as they plodded through the sand. I wasn't exactly sure what I was going to find at Tech Noir, but I was up for anything new. The beer bars with the cute girls were a lot of fun, but I felt like I had experienced it all before watching videos late at night back stateside. I wanted something visceral, something esoteric, a genuine experience in reality. I turned into Soi 6 and got the familiar genital grabs from the ladies, some of them who I was pretty sure were dudes. I kept trudging through the menagerie of bodies trying to coerce me into their bars. Further down the Soi, the Tech Noir sign was lit up in blue and hot pink neon, begging me to come in. A young Thai man with a jacket that said security was wearing red-tinted hipster glasses, and he let me into the club. Even though the sun had just got down, the place was packed with people. It was a go-go type bar, and the girls were dancing in tight leather booty shorts and black lace tops. They were extremely attractive, way more so than the other women on the Soi. They gyrated in sync with the music on the 4 poles that rose out of the middle of the bar. The dancing was on a raised stage, and I was eye level with their jiggling crotches. Before traveling to Thailand, I'd watched an entire tutorial on how to spot if a girl was actually a guy. Waist too skinny, low voice, and big hands being the telltale signs. The girls dancing on the stage passed my amateur analysis. They were indeed real women. I ordered a few beers and enjoyed the scenery. Even though you couldn't see out into the Soi from the go-go bar, the dancing ladies were entertainment enough. It had been 30 minutes, and I was surprised none of the girls had asked me to buy them an overpriced lady drink. I figured it may have been because I was a big sweaty fatso, but I looked around and saw that the girls weren't talking to anybody. I guess they don't need the money, I thought. A door behind the bar opened like it was the DeLorean from Back to the Future. About 10 girls came streaming onto the floor wearing masks that looked like they were backup singers for Daft Punk. One of them sat next to me and she had on an LED name tag that said Rachel. She had really smooth, skinny legs and an amazing rack. "Hey, Rachel, how are you?" I said. I wasn't sure if she could talk with the big mask on. She bowed her head a bit. Then she put one of her hands on my hand and beckoned me with the forefinger of her other hand. The DJ had stopped the music. I looked around and the masked babes were hanging around each of the customers in the bar. Suddenly, a strange song emanated from Rachel's masks. I think it was Thai, but the melody was very familiar. It was like something my mother would hum to me when I was a child. I couldn't resist the gentle siren song, so I went with her through the door behind the bar. We walked up a wrought iron staircase that spiraled upwards. It was like something in a medieval castle. I thought I was going to break the thing, but there was a fatter guy who climbed up ahead of me, and the staircase seemed to be holding strong. On the second floor, I started feeling incredibly woozy. I'm an out-of-shape individual, but I know it wasn't just from coming up one flight of stairs. Those 3 beers must have been spiked. Rachel led me into a small room. There were little model airplanes and a poster of Superman on the wall. It looked like a child lived there. In the middle of the room was an empty bar stool that was as out of place as a boat washing up on the second floor of a house after a hurricane. She led me by the hand, and I sat down. "What are your deepest desires?" Rachel asked me. "I'm not sure. Cold beer, warm women, I guess." I stumbled through the words like I had a mouthful of marbles. "Let's try again. What is the last good memory of your mother?" Rachel asked. I thought about when she hooted and hollered for me at my high school graduation. She would die the summer after that of ovarian cancer. "Why do you want to know this?" I asked. Rachel pulled a laptop off a nearby desk. Connected to the USB port was what looked like a black Q-tip. She shoved it in my ear. I had visions of my mother cleaning my ears at the county pool. I was a little boy again, eyes bloodshot from swimming in the chlorinated water all day and ready to go home. I then tumbled down the void. Mister, you can't sleep here." I opened my eyes and 2 cops were shining flashlights in my face. I snapped my head back and saw the vast Gulf of Thailand pitch black as waves lapped close to my head. "Sorry, officers. I'll be moving along," I said, standing up with a grunt. My entire backside was covered in wet sand like a beached whale. "Are you okay? No sleeping out here," one of the cops said. "Yeah, I'm sorry. I think I had too much to drink," I replied. I thought about telling them about the shenanigans at the Tech Noir, but I held my tongue. "No problem. Just go back to hotel. It's dangerous in Pattaya at night." "Thank you, officers," I said. I stumbled back onto Beach Road, and it was practically deserted, except for a few drunken late-night revelers. I walked down Soi 6, and everything was closed. I saw a group of young girls wearing normal clothes instead of the skimpy bar girl clothes. They're civilian clothes, if you will. "It's too late," one of the girls hollered at me with a smile. "Just passing through," I said. I walked past the Tech Noir. The neon lights were all off, which didn't surprise me. But the entire front door had a decayed piece of rotted plywood over it, and one of the windows was busted. It looked like it belonged in the middle of a city that's been blighted for decades. I was on my way to Pittsburgh with a shipment of Samsung televisions. I was coming from a warehouse in Chicago and passing through my home state of Ohio when I saw the video. I had selected a YouTube playlist entitled "The Kind of Guys You See in Pattaya, Thailand." Stories highlighted how great it was to meet the lovely ladies of Pattaya, even if you were a regular middle-aged Joe. There was a French farmer, a Norwegian roughneck, and a Korean taxi driver. I was driving during rush hour in Cleveland, so the video was just on in the background and I was only half paying attention. Then the 4th video came up called, "What Will This Ohio Trucker Find in Pattaya?" It had almost 1 million views. "This I gotta stop and see," I thought as I paused the video. I pulled into a truck stop because I needed a break anyway. I parked my rig and grasped the phone out of its cradle. The YouTube thumbnail was an 18-wheeler truck driving into what looked like a go-go bar. On the left was a cute bar girl, and the right was the exact image of me. I thought that was some new scheme where YouTube would randomly insert your photo into thumbnails to drive engagement. But after 5 seconds into the video, I knew it was no trick. There was me as a child swimming in a pool. The background of the pool was a bit washed out and the people swam really strangely, but the rendition of me was incredibly accurate. Then the video segued into me at my mother's funeral. Then there was me in the army, and then getting my CDL and becoming a trucker. No one had ever taken this much interest in my life, so it was a bit unsettling at first. There was a still picture of my ex with devil horns drawn on her head. The words, "nasty wife," scrolled across the video. Then it showed me walking around Pattaya on Soi 6, chatting it up with the girls. I didn't recognize this as the exact way my trip to Thailand had gone down, but it was fairly close. You could tell the women in the video were fake though, because they had no blemishes whatsoever and massive boobs. I scrolled through the previous videos in the playlist. I hadn't noticed the first time around since I was driving, but I vaguely recognized the guys in the videos as some of the other gents at the Tech Noir. I guess I wasn't too mad about the video. It was a bit flattering, to be honest. Most of the YouTube comments were fairly supportive. Glad he left that hideous ex. Time for some fun in Pattaya. I'm a trucker too, and I'm saving up, etc. Why get all serious? There's already security cameras all over the place taking footage of me. I have to get drug tested once a month from the company that hires me as a trucker. Ads bombard me 24/7. So what if some weird computer thing wants to steal my dreams? I'm still happy most of the time. The end. Thank you very much for listening to this Friendly Frog Press original publication. I hope that you enjoyed it. Many of our original works are available for sale in ebook, paperback, and audiobook. The links are usually in the description below. Please don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you'd like to yell at me on X, I'm at P. Beauheart. I also have a Substack where I post original and classical work at Paul Beauheart. Please feel free to visit our website, friendlyfrogpress.com, for a full list of our available books and links. If you want to reach out to me on email, paulbeauheart@gmail.com. Thanks so much for watching. This is Paul Beauheart, signing off.